Well, after suffering through all the garbage 2022 had to offer, I get to reward myself by talking about all the movies I love. If you haven't watched my worst movies of 2022 yet, I'd recommend giving it a watch. You know how these videos work, so let's get started.
That band, Gwar, has got to be the raunchiest, most rotten band.
We're kicking off this list with the documentary on Shudder, This is Gwar. This really is a well-done documentary about a great band. I've been a huge Gwar fan for years, and this was a very fascinating look behind the scenes from their formation and influences to now. It just gives me a lot more love and appreciation for Gwar than I already had. There's also really cool interviews from people such as Weird Al too. If you're a Gwar fan or don't know anything about Gwar, this is absolutely worth a watch. Also, see them live, you will not regret it.
We now offer you a 45-second head start. Okay.
Who would have thought the idea of critiquing food or eating at a restaurant would be so goddamn terrifying? This is how you make unlikable characters and give them charm. Unlike Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022 and Bodies, 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 which had annoying and unlikable characters with no charm, this is how you do it. This is easily one of my favorite performances by Anya Taylor-Joy. Her back and forths with the villain are hilarious. Speaking of which, Ralph Fiennes is absolutely horrifying and hilarious as the main villain. The writing is very clever, the editing is fantastic, this movie's hilarious, and it even takes one of my least favorite cliches in newer horror movies, the abrupt ending where the villain wins, and does a great job with it. It's just a great horror comedy. You really need to give this a watch.
In this family, it's the scientists versus the artists.
Steven Spielberg strikes again with another great movie. The acting is strong from everybody in the cast, especially Gabriel LaBelle as Sammy, Paul Dano as Bert, Michelle Williams as Mitzi, and surprisingly Seth Rogen as Benny. I never thought I'd see him in a non-stoner comedy role, yet he knocked it out of the park. Also, David Lynch has a cameo as John Ford, and it's absolutely awesome. The story is strong, dramatic, beautiful, heartwarming. I love how Spielberg went for a semi-autobiographical approach with this movie, showing some of the struggles he went through from the view of a main character. The dramatic moments all hit and left me speechless, such as when Sammy discovers the affair between Mitzi and Benny. My jaw dropped, and I was almost in tears seeing how heartbroken he was. Yes, the pacing could have been a little better, and I found the third act to be a little generic and not as effective as the first two acts, but this is still a near-perfect movie. While I can't put it up there with Close Encounters, E.T. or Jaws as among my top 5 of his movies, I still can't deny this was another great movie by the master himself.
I'm afraid we found your son at a polka party.
I've been a huge Weird Al fan since I first heard White and Nerdy. When I first heard he was going to do a biopic, I was beyond excited, and this movie did not disappoint. As per usual with the man himself, this movie is absolutely hilarious. The jokes had me laughing from beginning to end. Daniel Radcliffe is fantastic and believable as Al, and I can totally understand why the real Al personally picked him. He's just as likable and hilarious as Al himself. The other actors such as Rainn Wilson as Dr. Demento and Evan Rachel Wood as Madonna are great as well. I knew this movie was going to be an over-exaggerated parody of a biopic, but god damn, Al is unpredictable as always and goes super over the top, and I wasn't expecting the directions this movie would go. Who would have thought I'd see a movie where Al would fight mobsters or trip out on LSD? You know, it really says something when the best biopic of the year is a parody of generic formulaic biopics, which makes sense for Weird Al, and that's what makes this movie so great.
Nick fucking...
It's funny that Nicolas Cage's best performance is when he is playing himself, and I made that in the best possible ways. The unbearable weight of massive talent was a fucking blast to watch from beginning to end. I've had a lot of fun experiences in a theater, and this is easily one of the most fun I've ever had. The comedy is great, all the jokes land so well, the action scenes are a blast to watch. Pedro Pascal and Nicolas Cage work extremely well off each other. It's such an amazing team up, they have such a great dynamic with each other. Cage is just as fun and entertaining in a movie as he's always been. This fictionalized version of himself is just as hilarious and likable as the real Cage. This was a great career resurgence for him. I'm excited to see him do more stuff, and I'm curious to see how he would play Dracula. Because he's Nick fucking Cage.
Sometimes I find my mind wandering.
The only good thing that came out of seeing that pretentious mindfuck Men was seeing the trailer for Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Unfortunately, it took forever for the movie to come to my local theater, and when it did, I got my ticket immediately, and oh my god, this exceeded my expectations. The characters are likable and funny, especially Marcel, who is absolutely adorable and hilarious. The story is well written and heartwarming. The editing and camera work is top-notch and believable as a mockumentary. I'm always a sucker for stop motion, and holy shit, it looked great in this movie. The blending of it with the live-action sets was seamless. I could believe this animated shell was interacting with his environment. It's a shame stop motion isn't as appreciated, and it should be because a lot of work and patience goes into perfecting it. Believe me, I've done it. This really is such a heartwarming, sweet, and funny movie I can see families enjoying. Oh, and speaking of stop motion...
You're a Hell Maiden.
Although it's been 12 years since Coraline, Henry Selick never lost his touch. His direction and writing with the help of Jordan Peele really elevate this movie into being something greater. The stop motion looks amazing, which is to be expected from the man who gave me two of my favorite movies of all time, The Nightmare Before Christmas and Coraline. All the characters move so fluently and gracefully. The characters are extremely likable and entertaining. Key and Peele are hilarious as Wendell and Wild. Kat is a great character and I felt sympathy and rooted for her. I also love the idea of her being a rocker and a punk. This leads me to my next point. The soundtrack is awesome. The inclusion of Afro-punk bands was a very nice touch, and I love the use of Cult of Personality by Living Colour at the end of the movie. Well, that, and I absolutely love that song. I can't wait to see Henry Selick's next project, and hopefully he won't be gone for another 12 years.
If only they would just die.
Coming from someone who isn't a big fan of Ty West, he improved as a writer and director with this movie and X. However, I found Pearl superior to X in every way. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed X, but I didn't find it scary. Yes, it was entertaining, but it was more funny than it was scary. I mean, the killer is a horny old woman. How is that not funny? Pearl, on the other hand, is terrifying and creepy. Ty West and Mia Goth did an outstanding job creating a character that not only was I afraid of, but I just felt so sorry for. This movie and Joker are excellent character studies of what happens when a person who is mentally ill is pushed too far. I was left speechless during the argument scene with Pearl and her mother. Mia Goth and Tonda Wright knock it out of the park with this scene. As much as I thought the mother was a bitch, I could understand where she was coming from. Of course, you have the excellent monologue by Mia Goth at the very end of the movie, and I am eagerly waiting for the next part in Ty West's X trilogy, Maxine.
People are sometimes afraid of things they don't know.
If you were disappointed by Disney's disaster of a remake, which I have not seen because I refuse to watch the live-action Disney remakes, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio is mandatory. Guillermo del Toro and Mark Gustafson knocked it out of the park with this movie. The stop motion is absolutely gorgeous. And once again, it sucks this type of animation isn't as appreciated. All the voice acting is fantastic, especially from Ewan McGregor as Sebastian Cricket and Gregory Mann as Pinocchio. The songs are all great, especially Ciao Papa. Gregory Mann did such a fantastic job singing this song. The themes of war and fascism are extremely well executed, and while I'm not a fan of toilet humor, it was hilarious seeing Pinocchio roast Mussolini. And I like how this movie is mainly about Geppetto becoming a better father, instead of just Pinocchio becoming a real boy. I hope this wins Best Animated Feature because Del Toro, the cast, and the crew absolutely deserve it for their hard work. Unfortunately, I have my doubts considering how much they love to give all the awards to Disney. But who knows? Prey was a breath of fresh air after the god-awful and stupid The Predator in 2018. In my opinion, this is the best Predator movie since the very underrated Predator 2. This movie got everything right that Predators, The Predator, and the Alien vs. Predator movies got wrong. I love how there isn't a lot of dialogue in this movie, especially during the beginning. I always preach show don't tell, and this movie perfects it. I love the 1700s Native American setting in this movie. The movie uses the setting so well and it's not distracting whatsoever. The Comanche culture and their customs are very interesting to watch. Naru is a strong female lead done right. She's badass, she's likable, strong, and goes through great character development throughout the movie. We see her grow from someone who wants to be a hunter and no one believes her to a badass by the end of the movie. You see, Alex Garland? This is how you do female empowerment. The Predator in this movie is easily the most badass and deadly Predator since the City Hunter. He is a legit threat and does not fuck around whenever he's on screen. The action scenes and the kills are amazing, especially when the Predator kills a bear and drinks its blood. That was a great holy shit moment. And the final fight between the Predator and Naru is so satisfying. Give me more Predator movies like this in different time periods and settings. I want to see the Predator fight pirates, Vikings, samurais. The possibilities are endless.
Jesus, what the fuck?
Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill do it once again with another scary and suspenseful horror movie with The Black Phone, based on the short story by Joe Hill, the son of the legendary Stephen King. I don't say this about a lot of horror movies, but this movie is scary as fuck. It had me shaking in suspense from the word go. The scares and the atmosphere are super effective. Even though this movie utilizes jump scares, they are not fake outs like most newer horror movies and they actually lead up to something. And also, this movie doesn't constantly rely on jump scares. Unlike something like Smile, which only used jump scares and they were very annoying. The writing is excellent and every scene is filled with suspense and dread. Mason Thames as Finn and Madeline McGraw as Gwen are amazing in this movie. They feel like actual siblings and have great chemistry with each other. Ethan Hawke is absolutely terrifying as the Grabber. That scene alone of him sitting in the kitchen shirtless with the belt in his hand is still burned into my head. And this movie has quite possibly one of the most satisfying endings I have ever seen in a horror movie. Every time I watch The Black Phone, I love it even more. I love The Menu and Pearl, but this movie is easily the best horror film I have seen in 2022.
This is your captain speaking.
While I enjoy the first Top Gun, it is far from my favorite 80s movie. Top Gun Maverick, on the other hand, is leaps and bounds better than the original. The story of this movie definitely won me over and is much more interesting than the original, with Maverick trying to figure out where he truly belongs and training these new recruits. The acting is fantastic, especially from Tom Cruise and Miles Teller. It was great seeing Val Kilmer come back for a scene as Iceman 2. I also never thought I'd say this, but I liked Jennifer Connelly in this movie because personally, I'm not really a big fan of hers. Sorry, not sorry. The new characters are all likable and entertaining and have great chemistry with each other. Seeing them all interact was great and I had a smile on my face every time. The score is fantastic and it was nice hearing some of the great 80s songs from the original. The action scenes and the air scenes are extremely well shot and are a blast to watch. I especially love the big fight at the end where Maverick and Rooster have to get out of the enemy base. In my opinion, this movie, Cobra Kai, Ghostbusters Afterlife, and Spider-Man No Way Home are examples of nostalgia done right.
I'm vengeance.
I waited 2 years for the Batman to come out and it was absolutely worth the wait. Robert Pattinson was amazing as this younger, brutal, inexperienced Batman, and I hope we get more of him in the future. I feel like an asshole for having my doubts about him, because goddammit, I want more of this goth brooding Batman. He goes through an amazing arc from learning to be a symbol of hope instead of a symbol for vengeance. And I rooted for him every step of the way. While she is not better than Michelle Pfeiffer, Zoe Kravitz was awesome as Catwoman and she had great chemistry with Robert Pattinson. Jeffrey Wright was an awesome Jim Gordon, Colin Farrell was amazing as the Penguin, and Paul Dano was creepy as hell as the Riddler. I'm glad we got a darker Riddler and not the goofy Riddler we're used to seeing. The action scenes are great, especially the big fight at Gotham Square Garden, the scene in the church, and the epic chase scene with the Penguin. Michael Giacchino's score is amazing. His Batman theme is the best since Danny Elfman's. Despite this movie being 3 hours, it's never boring to me. I always say I don't mind a long movie as long as I'm invested in what's going on, and I was definitely invested in this movie. I know the DC movies are rebooting again. James Gunn, Warner Brothers, do not fuck this up. I want more of Matt Reeves' Batman universe. Yes, I would have liked to see Affleck's Batman movie, but I am perfectly satisfied with this. I'm a big fan of Kevin Smith's View Askewniverse. Clerks is one of my favorite movies, and I think Clerks 2 is even better. When Kevin Smith announced he was making a Clerks 3, I was both excited and skeptical. The ending of Clerks 2 was perfect and served as a great farewell of these characters, so I wasn't sure what he would do next. After waiting, I'm glad Clerks 3 exceeded my expectations. Jeff Anderson and Brian O'Halloran slip back into their roles as Randall and Dante, and easily give their best performances as these characters. Yes, Randall is that hilarious pop culture reference spewing asshole, but we see a more vulnerable and emotional side to him that we haven't seen since Clerks 2 after he survived his heart attack. Brian O'Halloran absolutely crushes it as Dante in this movie. There is a scene where he gives a powerful monologue to Randall, and it was giving me chills seeing him pour his heart out. Their friendship is easily the heart of the movie. Jay and Silent Bob are hilarious as usual. Elias had some of the funniest scenes in the movie, going from a Christian to a born-again Satanist. Rosario Dawson's scenes as Becky's spirit encouraging Dante to move on are great and are the most emotional moments of the movie. There are even cameos from other characters in the previous movies such as Veronica and Emma. Kevin Smith not only brings it with his humor like the first two movies, but he brings in a lot of drama. This is easily the most emotional film he's ever done. Besides putting in his story surviving his heart attack, the scenes with Dante mourning Becky and the ending where Dante dies are easily the most heartbreaking moments of the movie. The ending where Dante dies made me cry in the theater. I knew this movie was going to be an emotional roller coaster when Kevin made the smart decision to start the movie with Welcome to the Black Parade by My Chemical Romance, and when he played the very emotional Just Breathe by Pearl Jam during Dante's funeral. Both are amazing songs, by the way. This movie shows why we love these characters, and this served as a great send-off to them. Now it's time for honorable mentions. Nope, RRR, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, Tar, Puss in Boots The Last Wish, Bullet Train, Barbarian, Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe, The Woman King, Emily the Criminal, Terrifier 2, Metal Lords, Hustle, Elvis, All Quiet on the Western Front, Turning Red, After Sun, The Northman, and X. Alright, it's time to talk about the best movie I've seen in 2022.
Very busy today, no time to help you.
Wow, I am really kicking myself in the ass for not seeing this in theaters. Everything Everywhere All at Once is a blast from beginning to end. I had a smile on my face the whole movie. Every time I watch it, it gets better and better. It makes the concept of the multiverse a lot more fascinating than Multiverse of Madness, which, by the way, I didn't hate, I just found it to be messy. Acting from everyone is spectacular, especially Michelle Yeoh as our main character. She is such a likable and entertaining character, just like the rest of these characters. You care about them, you root for them. The action is spectacular and fun, all the comedic bits hit. I laugh my ass off every time I watch this movie. The CGI and effects are amazing. The message of this movie is amazing. And unlike most movies nowadays feel the need to tell you the message instead of showing it to you, this movie does the proper thing. The message of the movie is woven into the narrative perfectly. So much heart went into making this such a great movie. This movie has a perfect balance of comedy and drama, whereas most movies tend to use comedy at inappropriate times. I know I'm not saying a lot, but what I say will not do this movie justice. You just have to see it for yourself. It's well acted, written, directed, hilarious, heartwarming, and visually spectacular. It's easily one of my favorite movies by A24, and my favorite movie of 2022. And those are all my favorite movies of 2022. Let me know what your favorites are down below. I'm curious to know what they are. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.